So I was working with a fellow last month who is actually a musician, very talented musician, and he was fascinated when I told him that I was playing Bucholdt music, and I showed him a couple of videos, and he's like, "Wow, this is amazing." He's very good at Namibia music, was Shona music of Zimbabwe, and we were talking about the difference between the music that I play, the Bucholdt music, and the Western music, and he said, and we were also talking about this continuing theme that in Bucholdt music, there's so many different types of tuning. There's no standardized tuning whatsoever. It's tuned a certain way, and if you're familiar with the culture, if you're very familiar with the culture, you can say, okay, I know which language, I know which, this is Baranao, this is Bagindanao, this is Tausug, this is Sambal, because there's different tunings for each culture, but even within each culture, there's different tunings for each village. And then even within the village, the tunings will depend on the owner of the instruments. So if somebody has a favorite song they like to play, and there's a certain tuning that sounds really good with a particular song, they will retune their instruments so it favors the song that they like. So because it's like all over the place, it's not like it's chaos, but it's all over the place what the tuning would be like. It's so unlike Western tuning where it's like it's been standardized, and you have you've got the tuning forks, and it has to be exactly this note, and you don't have much difference away from this main note before it becomes a sharp or a flat. And we were talking about the similarity between that and also the indigenous music of the Shona people in southern Africa. It's inland, and there's so many different tunings, and people often don't pay attention to the tunings. They'll have a certain tuning that's familiar in their region or in their village or even within their family. So it's the same thing where people will tune it the way they want it to be. And then when instruments go out of tune, people don't care because there is not that German European influence that things have to be a certain way in order to be right. They are the way people like it to be. And this is like a natural part of music, that you play the music that you like to hear. And so he told to me, this fellow, he says, so do you know how the standardization of Western instruments began? And I said, really, I don't. And he said, let me tell you. This came about with classical music, with Bach and Beethoven and all these German composers who were playing this music, and then they were asked to play this music all in different places in Europe. But everywhere they went, the instruments were tuned differently. And so they asked the Christian church, the Catholic Church, to institute a standardization at each of the churches, so that each of the organs or the musical instruments that they had when they went to the churches would all be tuned exactly the same. And that's how it started. That's how the standardization began, was going to an institution as large as the church to say, in order to hear this music played in different places in Europe, you're going to have the tuning exactly the same.
Wow. Let's stop it. The church